I'd like to introduce Elizabeth Belfer, one of MAS's great new board members. She is also a founding supporter of Friends of the High Line and an active member of the High Line Trust. Elizabeth Belfer.
Thank you very much, Vin, and good afternoon. We've heard a lot today on how bold yet thoughtful ideas can preserve the best of our city while planning for a more livable New York in the years ahead. Here in New York City, one of the best and most well-known recent examples of how creative thinking can truly transform a neighborhood and a city is the High Line. Started by 2 community residents and brought to life and kept thriving by thousands of supporters, this innovative repurposing has helped us and city lovers around the world imagine new ways to creatively and sustainably integrate parts of our aging infrastructure. What was once considered by some a blight is today an economic catalyst, spurring retail, residential, and commercial development on Manhattan's far west side, and has provided a green ribbon with unique vistas all along, a scenic oasis of beauty and calm in an area previously bereft of park space. In addition, the High Line has myriad educational, public art, and outreach activities that engage visitors and locals alike in new ways with their surroundings. The High Line incorporates much of what is best about New York: civic engagement, design excellence, and strong public and private leadership. Like everyone involved, I'm thrilled with its success to date and excited for its future, which Josh and Robert will share with you now. Please join me in welcoming the co-founders of Friends of the High Line, Joshua David and Robert Hammond.
Thank you. Thank you. Oops. Oh. Woo. Excuse me. Soft chairs. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm looking, where's my, there we go. There we go. Hi, I'm Josh, that's Robert, and I want to begin first of all by thanking the Municipal Art Society. Nearly 15 years ago, really about 14 and a half years ago, Robert and I went to the Municipal Art Society with this crazy proposal that we wanted to turn this abandoned railroad structure into a park, and we actually hoped MAS would take it over altogether, but they wouldn't do that. But they did give us their endorsement and stood behind us and helped us in so many ways for the 10 years that it took to get the High Line finally open to the public, the first section. So thank you to the Municipal Art Society, and thank you to Elizabeth for that lovely introduction. Elizabeth is really a great example of the incredibly devoted and dedicated supporters that we've attracted to the High Line and have made all of this possible. So I love to start with this slide because it really shows the unique urban condition of the High Line. A lot of parks you go to escape the city. The High Line is a park where you go to experience the city in new ways. We opened Section 1 in 2009, Section 2 in 2011, and those are the 2 sections you can see here. These are our visitor numbers. Some of our color things got lost in translation here, but the second one from the left is our visitorship at the High Line. It's 4.45 million people. We expect it to be at the numbers way over at the right, 350,000. So it's a big difference. Such intense visitorship is really great in a lot of ways. It makes the park always vibrant, well populated, safe. But it also presents challenges. We don't get any revenue from each visitors. All of these other institutions on here are culturals that get admissions for each person. So it increases the challenge we have as a nonprofit to fund all of the aspects of the High Line's maintenance. Whoops. You can see that we've had amazing economic benefits for the city. The money that both the public sector and the private sector have contributed into the High Line's construction have had great results. $2 billion invested in the neighborhood since 2005 when the project was approved. And we're not done. So you can see in white are the sections of the High Line that have been built, and the red section is what Robert's going to talk to you a little bit about, the High Line at the rail yards, which is the exciting new section of the High Line that's under construction now. And off to the left, at the southern end of the High Line, we have the Whitney Museum coming in, scheduled to open in 2015. And you can see a smaller building with a sculpture on top of it nestled into the Whitney there. That's the High Line's new High Line headquarters building, which was also designed by Renzo Piano. So all of the High Line's operations staff and administrative staff will be moving in there in about a month's time. It's a huge and exciting advance for us. We've been maintaining and operating the High Line out of a small tenement apartment a few houses away from the High Line on West 20th Street. So to have a proper maintenance and operations center for us is a huge advance.
So the High Line, most people think the High Line is done, but as Josh said, we still have another third to go. And it wraps around the largest undeveloped site in the middle of Manhattan, the West Side Rail Yards. And this is basically the parking lot for all the trains that come in on New Jersey Transit and Long Island Railroad. And it's going to be the future home to the Hudson Yards. This is a site that Related Companies is developing, the same people that developed this building. But it's a much, much larger development. So within this site, they're looking to do 12 million square feet of mixed-use development. So that's if you take all the Class A office space in Houston and double it, it's going to be within this space. They've already started construction on one of these buildings, the new coach headquarters. Also, you can see a little bit down in the bottom of the picture, the culture shed, which is designed by our architects of Diller, Scofidio, and Renfro. And the High Line wraps around this site. And we started construction over a year ago. The blue part, we're building out to the full, so it'll look similar, and I'll show you a little bit what it looks like. Sections 1 and Section 2 of the High Line. But the green part is actually going to be a temporary walkway. We didn't have enough money to finish it, but we wanted to get all the way to 34th Street, to the Javits Center, right next to the new number 7 train that's opening next year. And so that's going to be left in its wild state. One of the challenges is how do you deal with the High Line in this kind of environment? You can see the density that's going to be here and see the little bitty High Line right at the bottom. And you know, one of the great things about our design team of James Corner Field Operations and Diller, Scofidio, and Renfro is they sort of embraced what the neighborhood is going to be. Instead of trying to sort of hide the High Line, they're sort of playing with it. So here is going to be this balcony that sort of leans out over the building so you see up the side, sort of exaggerating the height of the building, making it feel even taller in some ways. And then in other places, they took you know, what everyone loves to, what you can't do on the High Line right now. We have the rail lines in the pathways, but you're not allowed to walk on them. So they're creating this rail track walk that you'll be able to walk on them right, you know, through the plantings. The two pictures at the top are the benches we have now, these peel-up benches. We've come up with all different ways that the benches are going to be used. This extra long bench, a picnic bench. My favorite is the sort of seesaw bench that's going to, you know, little kids feature. Here's where the High Line crosses over 11th Avenue. And it's where you get some of the best views of the city because it's this rare occasion when you're over an avenue. And here, you know, I think one of the biggest, people say they come to the High Line to look at plants, but I think really they're coming to look at people. It's people watching. So what they've done is they've sort of created a catwalk where the middle pathway goes over a little higher, and then on both sides there's seating. And the other advantage is when you're on the catwalk, you're up a little higher, so you see over the railing, and you see up and down the avenues of 11th Avenue. And so that's sort of there's the catwalk. One of the things we always heard from the community is they wanted a place for kids. I mean, kids love the High Line. They just sort of run around on the peel-up benches. But we wanted to build something just for kids. But we didn't want to put a playground or a swing set up there. So they came up with the idea of cutting away the structure, revealing the steel beams that are there, and then coating them in a sort of a play rubberized surface. So it's a place that doesn't look like it's just for kids. I mean, I always think, just as many adults are going to want to go in there as kids. And this is the part I'm most excited about, and it's actually the simplest part, is this temporary walkway, where you're going to be able to walk on the High Line and see what it was like when Josh and I first went up there 15 years ago, cutting through the wild landscape.
So this is what it was like when Robert and I first went up about 15 years ago, and this is one of the most famous photographs by Joel Sternfeld who photographed the High Line back in 1999 through around 2001. And I think it's really important that we're doing the temporary walkway because so many of our visitors, they remember these images. This is their first knowledge of the High Line was seeing these images in the press. And we get asked all the time, are you going to leave any of it the way that it was? Are you going to show us what was originally there? And so eventually we'll have to remove this as well. But for a time, visitors on the High Line are going to be able to see what was originally up there and really the seed of the whole project. It's already, this is a moment in time. This is a moment from the past. There are already apartment buildings that have been built on the right side of the High Line. On this picture, there's a red smokestack in the distance along the High Line that's gone. The new coach building was on the left side of the building. There are already cranes there. So it's really a bit of a time capsule. One of the things that you'll have in this section of the High Line is you'll be able to see what it originally was as the city changes very dramatically around you. And it won't be just the city that's changing around you, the High Line is changing around you. So this is this section of the High Line now under construction. This is where all the renderings that Robert just showed you, this is the process of them being built. And from those features, you really are going to have a front row seat on one of the most dramatic urban transformations that the city has seen. People ask us, what does it mean to be building a park in such a rapidly changing built environment? How are you going to deal with these new buildings and all of the people in them? And we use Central Park as a corollary in many different ways. When we were first advocating for the High Line, we said we were going to be this generation Central Park. And then when it came time to figure out how to fund the High Line, we followed the Central Park's conservancy models. We're a conservancy like they are. The vast majority of our operating expenses are all privately raised and contributed through philanthropic contributions. And there's another correspondence that I use for Central Park when asked this question, and it's this photograph taken in the early days of Central Park. And in many ways, what the High Line is doing is a lot like this. We're completing a park in a part of the city that is going to rapidly change around us. And so to us, Joel's photographs are sort of the equivalent of this photograph, something that 50 years ago from now, people will look back at Joel's photographs, and it'll be a moment in time in New York City that feels so far away and of a very different moment. And we have another photograph that's really a time capsule of a similar kind. It was taken in 2005, and it's a photograph that already today couldn't be taken today. And when we were talking to the folks at the Municipal Art Society about speaking to you today, they said you're the last ones, so you should make a bang. So here's Mickey, and he's a bigger bang if you don't have the red stripe, but we tried to be somewhat dignified.
If you Google High Line nude, you can find it.
And we'll be doing a book there. He's one of about 8 different models that this one photographer, Kevin McDermott, shot up there in 2005.
Illegally. We didn't give him permission.
This is a moment in time that's in the relatively recent past, but is actually already in the distant past. There are people whose living room windows look out onto this now. This is there's this section of the High Line, not this. The culture, he's right next to where the culture shed's going to be. He's right next to where the coach tower is going to be. So Mickey is our ice skater in Central Park. And with that, I thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.